Ah, spring is in the air and your thoughts have turned to that first camping trip in your RV. Hi, I'm TR Bolin and I'm here with another RV how-to video. This time, I'm going to show you all the steps you should go through to get your RV spring ready. Also in this video, I'm going to be showing you some general maintenance things that will help you have a much more enjoyable time with your RV if you take care of them before you get out camping and they show up, which can ruin a camping trip for sure. In this video, I'm going to run you through all of the steps I go through every spring when I'm starting up my RV, getting it ready for that first trip. You can pick up your very own copy of this checklist for free when you visit my companion article over at trbolin.com. I think you'll find the checklist is a great starting point for any RV, and then you can customize it to your own specific needs. So run on over to trbolin.com and pick up your free checklist. There's a link in the video description below. The first thing I like to do is sanitize my RV's freshwater holding tank. I've got a specific video for that linked in this corner right up here that you can go watch. It's a short, quick video with step-by-step instructions on how to sanitize your RV's freshwater holding tank. That way you won't have to worry about it stinking or having bad odors, and you can trust it when you want to drink it and you're out camping. The next thing to do is check for leaks. And so we've already got our water system charged. If you've sanitized your system, then it's got water in all the lines, and that's what we want. If you haven't, put water in your RV's holding tank. The only real way to do it is with a pump. The reason I say that is that once you turn that pump on, pressure will come up in the system and then it should stop. Now just wait. If it continues to cycle, turn on and off like they will sometimes, that tells me you have a leak somewhere. You need to go find it. Water leaks are the most damaging things you can do to an RV, is have a water leak and not take care of it. Also, I have a very popular video on how to maintain your RV's black and gray water tanks. I'm linking to it in this corner as well. I invite you to go watch it because it will teach you how to spring clean those tanks and maintain those tanks as you use your RV throughout the season. So part of any good RV startup checklist is going to include electrical system checks. If you live in a cold climate, you should have removed your batteries and stored them someplace inside where it doesn't freeze. Here's the thing with batteries. Lead acids, AGMs, lithiums, they all do the same thing. That is, they lose a little bit of their charge every day, even though you're not using them, even though they're not hooked up to anything. The chemical reactions inside of those batteries keep churning, albeit at a very low rate, but by the end of winter, it can severely discharge your battery to the point that if you leave it outside in freezing weather, it might freeze. For the record, a fully charged battery, fully charged, is good to about 75 below. Again, as I mentioned, the problem is that battery is constantly losing a little bit of charge, and then maybe by the time it gets to half capacity, which is the deepest discharge, that's the most you want to remove out of that battery at any time. Once you get down to around 50%, that freezing point might only be 0 or 5 or 10 degrees below 0, depending upon your battery, and there's all other conditions. But the point is that battery can freeze even though it doesn't get super cold. So your best practice is, of course, to take the batteries out. Let's talk specifically about your chassis batteries, and then I'll talk about your house batteries. Your chassis batteries usually don't require a lot of maintenance. They're pretty good at maintaining themselves over the winter, but you should go out every month or so and start your RV and let it run a little bit if you have a motorized, self-propelled RV to charge up that battery. It's also good practice because it helps keep the oils moving through, keeps moisture out of the system. And I have a companion article about winter maintenance on my website at trbolin.com. I put a link in the description below. You might want to pick it up and hang on to it for next fall when you put your RV to bed for winter, because there's some great tips in there on how to do preventative maintenance over the winter and keep your RV in great shape and ready to run when you break it out in the spring. So check your batteries for corrosion. Make sure there's no corrosion on them. If there is, clean them off. I already have a video on my channel. I'm linking in the corner up here that you can go watch that will show you how to clean your battery terminals, and I invite you to go watch it. But it's important to clean those battery terminals when you're doing your electrical systems check. So whether you have a built-in generator or a portable, you want to start it up and you want to run them under load. Don't just start them up for a few minutes. You want to put them under load and make sure they're going to handle the load when you're out and you want it. That's simple to do. Just start your generator, let it warm up a few minutes, and then go ahead and put it under load. And what I mean by putting it under load is like turn on your AC or run the microwave or do some of those things to use power in your RV and let it run for 10 or 15 minutes. It'll give it a good warm up. And which reminds me, part of any good maintenance program includes changing the oil and the filters in your generator. Again, making sure you've done proper preventative maintenance and it's ready to run when you want to use it next time you're camping. A quick note about propane tanks. Important to keep those propane tanks clean. If your tanks look like these, clean them. You don't want to get them too corroded, especially the ones that are undermounted like on most Class A, B, and C RVs. Usually those propane tanks are mounted under the body and they're susceptible to corrosion, so you want to make sure you keep them clean. If it's rusted, use a wire brush, clean it up, get yourself some Rust-Oleum paint and paint any rust spots, because those things are expensive. You don't want to have to replace one of those. On your towables, travel trailers, and those sorts of things, usually the propane cylinders are on the front by the hitch and they get terribly rusty. So if they get rusty, clean them up, paint them up. Your RV will look better and it'll be in good shape and you don't have to worry about it. Well, it's important that you leak check all the connections in your propane system at least every other year. And it's really quite simple to do. In this video I'm showing you here that I shot recently of my working on an RV furnace, I'm leak checking with just some simple glass cleaner. All you need is some bubbly, soapy water. You take and you spray every connection with a little bit of soapy water, and you just look for bubbles. If you see bubbles, that means you've got a problem, and you should try to either tighten that connection or take the RV to a qualified propane service technician. While I'm thinking about it, if you like this video, give me that thumbs up. Also, if you're not subscribed, I would invite you to subscribe and ring the notification bell. On the list of inside maintenance items, one of the first things I like to do is just give my RV a good spring cleaning. Vacuum, dust, mop, clean out the fridge with bleach water, do all those sorts of things. Also, you want to check all your roof mounted vents, make sure they're working properly and that they're not leaking. You want to treat all your gaskets and seals, especially if you have slide outs, with silicone spray. Silicone only. Do not use WD-40. You want to use silicone on your rubber gaskets and seals. Rubber naturally contains a fair amount of silicone. It helps keep the rubber supple and soft. And by treating your gaskets and seals around the doors, like your gaskets around your doors and your slides, they're going to last a lot longer and you'll be a lot happier. You won't have air leaking, you won't have rain leaking in if it's raining. And it's something really simple to do. Now, using the same silicone spray or your favorite dry lubricant, WD-40 comes to mind, go around and lubricate all the locks on your RVs. Just take the little red nozzle hose thingy and stick it in the lock, give it a quick squirt. Do that to your compartment latches and locks. Do it to your lock on the doors, all that sort of stuff. Just go around and spray all of those. Also, you want to lubricate your steps. If you have steps, fold them out, spray the joints, the hinges and all the steps. If you have retractable steps, automatic, like most RVs, like most Class A's do, I should say, then open the door, run them in and out. You want to add your dry spray lubricant to any jacks you might have. They have hinge points. Put some dry spray lubricant in those hinge points like you're seeing here. Also on the threaded rod that runs them in and out. If you have hydraulic jacks like I have in my RV, it's good practice to either spray them with WD-40 and wipe them down, or I tend to use automatic transmission fluid, ATF. That's the kind of oil that is in that hydraulic system is ATF, and it works just fine. But some people would argue it attracts dust. I haven't found that to be the case. It hasn't been a problem for me. I'm linking to a playlist up in this corner with all of my RV how-to videos in it. The reason I do these is I want to show you just how easy it is to do these things yourself. You'll save a ton of money and time not waiting for the RV shop to become available when you got to wait 3 to 4 weeks, and maybe you'll take that money you save and take your family camping. Air conditioners are probably one of the most overlooked things on anybody's to-do list, and it's actually quite simple to do. I'm linking to a video up here that I already have on how to clean your RV's air conditioners. You want to do that. Take a few minutes, clean them. You'll be a lot happier in the long run because they'll work good when you're out and you want to use them and it's hot. The furnace, another important tool sometimes. If it's cold and you want that furnace to work, again, just do a general inspection on it. Pop the outside cover off using some compressed air or canned air. Either one works fine if you have an air compressor and a hose. But just spray out all the dust, cobwebs, check for insect nests, bees, wasps, spiders, that sort of stuff. Clean all that out. And then turn it on And most propane furnaces will have an inspection port on the outside you can look down and see the color of the flame. If it's a nice bright blue like this, you're in good shape. But if it's yellow or orange like this, you want to get that furnace serviced by a qualified propane service technician. Same thing goes for the refrigerator. We already cleaned the inside with bleach water. On the outside, pop the cover off, blow out any dust, insects, anything else, make sure it's nice and clean. Probably the most important item on the checklist is checking those tires. Nothing's going to ruin your trip faster than a blown tire. Trust me, I've had several. How many times have you been driving down the road and you see an RV pulled off to the side of the road with a blown tire? It's a big bummer and it can be a huge hassle. Particularly if you have a big Class A, you're not going to find those big tires that they put on those Class A's in every little town. So you might be a day or two or three waiting for tires to come in, maybe longer. So while you're checking those tires, look for any weather checking, any cracks, anything like that. The tread could be separating. Anything that you think that's wrong with those tires, change them out now. You're going to be happier in the long run. The second thing is, never run a tire older than 6 years old on any RV. 5 preferably, but 6 is the maximum amount of time you want to run a tire. And it's super easy to check and see how old your tires are. Every tire made has a date code brand on it, like I'm showing you here. It's usually right above the rim, it's on the bead of the tire somewhere, and it will be a combination of digits like you see here, 5107. In this particular case, these tires were manufactured in the 51st week of 2007. 13-year-old tires, 15, 16-year-old tires, yeah, you don't want to be running those. So I have a quick tip for you. Lose some weight. And I don't mean you. I mean your RV. Take a moment, go through the compartments of your RV. Anything you haven't used in, say, a couple of years, leave it behind. It's just extra weight. It puts more wear and tear on your RV, and it costs you more money and fuel to haul around. So if you haven't used it in a couple of years, get rid of it. Finally, make sure your tires are inflated before every trip to the manufacturer's recommended specification. I can't tell you that. It's different for every tire and every RV. You should be aware of how much pressure you should be putting in your tires. If you're not sure, check with your tire guy. You want to do a really careful inspection on your roof. Here's an example of my roof in 2018, which is why I had to replace it. You can see here, I had a leak back there. I knew I had that leak and I had been monitoring it. I had put some Eternabond tape on it to seal it up. But I was getting ready to do solar on my RV and I didn't want that spongy roof up there. Possibility of a solar panel lifting off the roof as I'm driving down the road. I'd hate to have that happen. So I ended up having to replace my roof. Check all of the roof sealant locations. Check around all your vents. Check around the edges. If there's lap sealant, check and make sure it's in good condition and refresh it as needed. If your RV is 10 years or older, it's not a bad idea to coat the roof with something like Henry's Durabright. There's Tropicool. There's many others. They're paintable rubber solutions that will help rejuvenate your RV's rubber roof and keep it in good working order. I highly recommend doing that if your RV is 10 years or older. It's a fairly easy 4 or 5 hour project. You're going to want to get up there and clean the roof, make sure you don't have any mold or mildew. And we should be doing this in our inspection anyway. If there is, a little bleach water will clean the mold and mildew right up, and then you're good to go. Last and not least, the rolling chassis. If it's been more than a couple years, pack your wheel bearings. Trailers or anything like that that have wheel bearings, make sure you pack them. If you don't know how, that's probably the time to maybe take it to the RV shop. It's actually quite simple to pack wheel bearings. There are hundreds of videos on YouTube on how to do that. If you're not comfortable doing that, that's probably something you ought to go to the RV shop and have done. It's a good idea and it will save you trouble down the road. Check all your marker lights, headlights if you have them, tail lights, side marker lights, all those sorts of things. If you have a Toad like on a Class A or C, you probably want to hook it up, plug it in, and make sure that everything's working. A side note, it's a good idea to make sure you've got spare fuses because it's super easy to pop a fuse when you're hooking up your towable. And your trailer may have different type fuses than your tow vehicle, like a pickup or a car or whatever the case may be. But it's always a good idea to make sure you got extra spare fuses. Of course, on the chassis, you want to change your oil, your filters, your air filters, something you can do yourself specific to your rig. I can't tell you how to do that. Or you can take it to your qualified mechanic, whoever you trust to do that kind of work. Should be more than capable of doing the oil and the filter service and so on and so forth. So if you found value in this video, give me that thumbs up. I always appreciate those. It also helps the video get ranked up so more people will see it, and that's a good thing. If you're not subscribed, do subscribe. I've got tons of RV how-to videos already on my channel with many, many more still to come. And if you have a question or comment, leave it below. I'm always happy to get back to every question or comment. I used to always say there's never any dumb questions. The only dumb questions really are the questions that are not asked. So if you have a question specific to getting your RV ready to start up for spring, leave it in the comments below. I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. But that'll do it for this one. Thanks so much for watching. I sure do appreciate it. Until we get together for another RV how-to video, peace.